Bart is a simple question. There is nothing complicated about Bart, but it tests very basic principles. So this is a question that you have to do at least once to make sure that you understand the basic principles, and then thereafter it should be putting on par. So if you still make mistakes when you're doing Bart, then it means that there is a serious lack of understanding on your side of the work that you're busy with this whole semester. So I would really recommend that you go back then and see where the problems are so that you can address it. Good, I say assume a VAT rate of 14%. Bart Stratus is a hardware retailer and is registered for VAT. The owner contacted you to assist him since he was unsure how VAT had to be accounted for. The following transactions occurred during the financial year ended 31 December 2013. Right. They give us 4 transactions. They give us certain notes. They say the balance on the VAT control account on 1 January 2013 was a liability of 47,420. During the year, VAT payments amounting to 30,000 Rand were made to SARS. Assume that all parties are VAT vendors unless otherwise mentioned and that VAT is included where applicable. This is the important sentence. The entity uses the periodic inventory system, also an important sentence. What I want from you is use the information and record the journal entries in the General Journal of Bart Traders. Prepare the VAT control account for the year ended 31 December in the General Ledger of Bart Traders. So as we're going to go along, we will do the VAT control account as well. The VAT control account on 1 January had a credit balance of 47,420. So here's my VAT control account, the balance there 47,420. During the year, we have made payments of 30,000 Rand to SARS. So bank was credited and my VAT control account was debited with 30,000 Rand. Great, now let's start then at number 1. The entity's delivery vehicle broke down on 2 January and had to be replaced with a new delivery vehicle with a cost of 136,800. This was paid for in cash. It's important because you have to credit the correct account, which will be bank, on the same day. Okay, you're not going to count out 136,800 Rand cash, guys, because then you have trouble with all kinds of legal entities. According to the Financial Intelligence Act, that transaction needs to be reported to the authorities because they can suspect money laundering if you're going to count out more than 50,000 Rand in cash. So by law, you have to declare it then to the authorities. So obviously it's going to make an EFT for 136,800. Good. He's a VAT vendor. The question says, assume all parties are VAT vendors that he is going to transact with, except if it's otherwise stated. So I'm going to debit by vehicle account, statement of financial position with a VAT exclusive amount of 120,000. I'm going to claim the VAT on the invoice of 16,800, statement of financial position. I'm going to credit bank 136,800. So that VAT input we can post to our VAT control account. So the VAT input 16,800 Rand. The second entry, purchased goods and paid 55,860 in cash from a supplier who is not registered for VAT. So very clearly, this specific supplier was not registered for VAT. The question that you have to ask yourself is, can this guy issue a tax invoice if he's not registered for VAT? And the answer very clearly is definitely no. Now, can I claim VAT without a VAT invoice? And the answer is also very definitely no. So what is the value of the purchases? Because it's a periodic inventory system. It is 55,860, the value of the invoice, 55,860, and there is no VAT that can be claimed on that specific invoice. Number 3. Purchased a tool bench for 7,068 Rand on credit for customer A. a long-standing customer, and then we sold it on. So let's do the purchase transaction first. They purchased this tool bench on credit for 7,068. Now, although they say it's on credit, you have no indications here that there are any settlement discounts applicable on creditors. So that means that that's 7,068, and we assume it is a VAT vendor because they've told us here that we transact with all VAT vendors. So that means that our purchases would be the VAT exclusive amount of 6,200, statement of profit or loss. We can claim the VAT on that purchase, 868, and creditors' statement of financial position will be credited with a full invoice amount of 7,068. Let's also record that VAT input in our VAT control account. VAT input 868. Then the second part of the question, remember they bought this thing for customer A. Customer A has requested such an item. They went along, they bought it, and then they sold it on to customer A. It was then sold to customer A on credit for 16,872 Rand. The entity's normal credit terms are 30 days, but a 5% settlement discount is offered to customers who pay within 20 days. The entity expects the customer to take advantage of the discount offer. So that's a nice way of telling you that you have to create an allowance for settlement discount when the sales transaction takes place. So what is my steps that I have to follow? Number one, determine the invoice value, 16,872. Number two, take out the VAT. Invoice value 16,872, posted to our debtors account, statement of financial position. Take out the VAT, and if I take 16,872 divided by 1.14 times 14% equals 2,072. So I post it to my VAT control account, VAT output, VAT control account, VAT output 2072. What is my next step? Determine the VAT exclusive price equals 14,800. What is my fourth step? Break the VAT exclusive price down into its two legs. 5% will be posted to our allowance for settlement discount account, statement of financial position, of the VAT exclusive amount, 740 Rand then, and 95% of the VAT exclusive amount is posted to our sales account, statement of profit or loss, 14,060. The entity agreed to pay you a consulting fee for 5,000 Rand for services rendered. This amount was paid by ways of an electronic transfer of funds. So 5,000 Rand, that is the total expense. I have to take out the VAT because no income or expense item includes VAT. So the VAT exclusive amount will go to the expense account, statement of profit or loss. I can claim the VAT included in the 5,000 Rand. So it's VAT input. So here on the debit side, 614 Rand. And then in total, we have paid the entity has paid 5,000 Rand for your services that you have rendered. So 5,000 Rand, credit bank, and that obviously will be the amount that you're going to receive. Good. Then the question says you have to determine the VAT control account balance, and remember that we've made payments of 30,000 Rand to that account. We can balance this account off now, and we will see that there remain a credit balance of 31,210 Rand. Prepare the VAT control account. Number 3 is the balance on the VAT control account, a current asset or a current liability. Guys, it's a liability. It's got a credit balance, therefore the entity owes the receiver of revenue that 31,000 Rand, so it's a current liability. Number 4, prepare the journal entry to record the receipt of the outstanding balance from customer A. So it was this transaction here where we sold that tool bench for an amount of 16,872. Now they want you to record the transaction. Number 4 is if you pay within 20 days, and number 4 is if you pay after 20 days. Okay, now when payment is received on an outstanding debtors balance, what is your first step? First step is determine the amount that you're going to receive. How? Determine if I receive payment then within the settlement period or without the settlement period. Obviously, I'm going to receive the payment within the settlement period. So therefore, this guy is not going to pay me the full 16,872, but only 95% of 16,872. What is his outstanding balance though? 16,872. So what is the amount we're going to receive? 95% of the invoiced amount of 16,872. So our bank will be debited of 16,028. But when we recorded the sales transaction, we debited 16,872 to the debtors account. So obviously we want to take that out of our books now. We're going to credit our debtors account 16,872. What is the difference between the 16,872 and the 16,028? The settlement discount granted to this guy inclusive of that. But when have we recorded the settlement discount? We've already recorded the settlement discount or take care of the settlement discount when we've done the sales transaction. So this is now parked in an allowance account. And when does that allowance account expire? Number one, either when payment takes place, or number two, when the settlement period has expired and the debtor can no longer make use of the settlement discount. So which one of the two has happened now? Payment has taken place. So therefore, I have to remove this allowance account out of my books. It's no longer a valid account. So I'm going to debit my allowance for settlement discount with 740 Rand. Sorry, there, 740 Rand. So the difference between those two, we said, is the settlement discount inclusive of VAT. So the only remaining entry is to claim the VAT. That is the VAT exclusive amount. So 14% on that amount equals 104 Rand, and we can claim the VAT input now, 104 Rand. So in our VAT control account, if you're going to continue here, there would have been a debit in our books of 104 Rand. In number 5, they say, let's assume that this debtor pays after the settlement discount period has expired. First point again, how much am I going to receive from him if he pays outside the settlement discount period? Well, then he cannot deduct anything from the invoice value. He has to pay me the full invoice value. So he has to pay me the full amount of 16,872. So the amount I'm going to receive in my bank account would be 16,872. What is currently the amount lying in his own account? In his own account, there's an account amount of 16,872, so we're going to take it out. But remember, we have recognized settlement discount when we recorded the sales transaction. Is this allowance account applicable anymore? No, because the settlement discount period has expired, so we have to get rid of this 740 Rand out of our books. So we're going to debit the allowance account. Initially, we only took 95% of the VAT exclusive amount to our sales account when we recorded the sales transaction. But if this guy paid us 100% of the invoice value, what should we have taken to our sales account? 100% of the VAT exclusive invoice value, not only 95%. So therefore, we're going to debit that account with 740 Rand, and we're going to credit sales with 740 Rand. And once we've done that, our total sales would equal 14,800, which is correct. That is the total VAT exclusive amount which was included in the invoice. So the very last entry is debit the allowance for settlement discount, 740 Rand, credit sales, 740 Rand.